Power grants you the throne, but it also strips away the comfort of equals. The higher you climb, the fewer you can trust. The problem we solve here is simple: why solitude is not misfortune for the powerful, but their only safeguard. To rule is to be alone or to be destroyed. Those who dream of power imagine it as a feast surrounded by allies, servants, and admirers. Yet, the true banquet of power is a silent table with only suspicion as company. At the summit of command, one discovers that loyalty is brittle, envy is constant, and friendship dissolves into calculation. To govern with strength, one must embrace the truth: solitude is not exile. It is armor. It sharpens the mind, hardens the will, and keeps the sovereign untouchable. In this reflection, we will uncover why those who rise must accept the chill of isolation, for it is the very condition of survival at the top. Power seduces you with its glitter. It whispers of allies, of loyal companions, of faithful supporters who will raise you higher. But hidden beneath that golden surface lies the sharpest trap: trust. Tell me, what is more dangerous to a ruler? The declared enemy at the gates or the smiling confidant at his side? History answers for us. Rome did not fall to barbarians alone. It rotted from within, by senators who plotted with daggers concealed under robes, by generals who pretended loyalty until ambition demanded betrayal. Trust is not a gift, it is a weapon. And the moment you extend it, you place it in the hands of another, leaving yourself at their mercy. You may believe you are giving them honor, but in truth, you hand them a key to your downfall. Look to Julius Caesar. Beloved by his soldiers, adored by the people, but confident enough to believe that the Senate's gratitude matched their words. He trusted Brutus, the man who once swore loyalty. Yet when steel pierced his flesh, it was not the thrust of an enemy that crushed him, but the betrayal of a supposed son. Would the blade have cut as deeply if Caesar had never trusted at all? The lesson is cold. Trust multiplies vulnerability. The ruler who demands loyalty without handing out blind trust survives longer than the one who embraces men as brothers. And here is the paradox. The weak crave trust because they lack power. They cling to others for validation, for a sense of safety. But the powerful discover that trust is a luxury they cannot afford. For each person you trust, you open a vein, and sooner or later, someone will bleed you dry. Consider your own life. Have you ever trusted someone completely? A friend, a partner, a colleague? Did it liberate you, or did it tie your fate to theirs, making their weakness your liability? Imagine the leader who entrusts his secrets to a confidant. The moment that confidant is threatened, bribed, or simply envious, those secrets become daggers aimed back at the master. Trust, in practice, is an open invitation to betrayal. Psychology supports this. Human beings act not from loyalty, but from interest. A man will stand by you so long as his fortune rises with yours. But the instant your decline offers him greater advantage, trust becomes irrelevant. His mind recalculates, his loyalty evaporates, and your downfall begins. Trust ignores this truth. Cold calculation embraces it. Why do so many fall into the trap? Because trust feels good. It softens the burden of power. It convinces you that you are not alone, but comfort is often the enemy of survival. Power demands vigilance, and vigilance dies where trust is abundant. Do you recall the Borgia family? Ruthless, cunning, feared throughout Renaissance Italy. Their survival depended not on trust, but on manipulation. Cesare Borgia surrounded himself not with friends, but with tools, men who feared him, men who obeyed him, men who were discarded once their usefulness ended. Did he trust them? Never. He mastered them, and so long as he held power, none could master him in return. The pattern repeats across centuries. Leaders fall not because of enemies they can see, but because of allies they assumed were true. Kings poisoned by their own courtiers, generals betrayed by subordinates, business magnates undone by partners. Trust blinds the powerful to ambition lurking in others. And ambition, like a wolf, does not rest until it feeds. So I ask you, would you rather walk alone and alert, or surrounded by smiling companions with daggers hidden behind their backs? Which is the greater burden? To carry solitude or to carry betrayal? You may believe in loyalty. You may wish to trust. But if you aspire to stand at the summit of power, understand this trust must be rationed like poison, for it is poison. The ruler who trusts freely signs his own death warrant. And yet, here is where the burden grows heavier. To reject trust is to embrace solitude. To question every hand that reaches out is to feel the chill of isolation. But solitude preserves power. Trust invites ruin. This is why so few endure at the top. They crave companionship more than survival. The powerful man learns to wear suspicion like armor. He calculates loyalty as a temporary currency, never mistaking it for permanent devotion. He gives tasks, rewards, punishments. But never his heart, because the heart, once entrusted, becomes the perfect target for betrayal. Remember this, the enemy, before you can be met with soldiers, with strategies, with fortifications. But the enemy you trust, he needs only patience. One whisper, one moment of envy, one slip of the dagger, and the empire you built with years collapses in seconds. This is the burden of trust. To wield power is to refuse it, to recognize that the hand you clasp may tomorrow strike. And if you fail to see this truth, you will not remain powerful. You will become another example in history's endless archive of rulers destroyed by those closest to them. Now, let us move to the second truth. Why isolation, though feared, is not weakness, but the very strategy that keeps the throne secure. Power is not preserved by crowds. It is preserved by distance. You may think that proximity creates loyalty, that being surrounded by men who flatter you secures your position. But closeness does not strengthen authority. It corrodes it. The more access you grant, the more familiar others become with your weaknesses, your habits, your flaws. Familiarity breeds contempt. And contempt, when given time, breeds rebellion. So ask yourself, would you rather be admired from a distance or picked apart at arm's length? History teaches us that isolation is not retreat, it is strategy. Consider the ancient kings of Persia. They did not dine with peasants or walk freely in crowded markets. Their presence was rare, their image carefully veiled, their access controlled. Why? Because scarcity breeds value. A ruler constantly seen becomes ordinary. A ruler rarely seen becomes myth. The same principle holds true in every age. Leaders who immerse themselves too much among the masses soon discover that closeness erodes reverence. The general who laughs and drinks daily with his soldiers will struggle to command obedience when discipline is demanded. Respect dies in overexposure. Authority requires distance. Psychology confirms this. The human mind attaches greater weight to what is rare and inaccessible. Mystery provokes reverence. Scarcity fuels desire. When you remove yourself from constant availability, your value multiplies. When you isolate strategically, you force others to come to you on your terms, under your conditions. Yet isolation serves a darker purpose as well. It shields you. Distance is a wall against manipulation. For every step someone must take to reach you, the harder it becomes for them to ensnare you. Look at the emperors of Byzantium. They built elaborate rituals, layers of bureaucracy, countless barriers. Petitioners bowed, kissed hands, and waited weeks for a single word. Did this distance weaken the emperor's authority? No, it magnified it. The throne seemed divine precisely because it was unreachable. Contrast this with leaders who craved familiarity. Napoleon, though a master strategist, allowed his officers and companions to become too familiar with him. They knew his temper, his insecurities, his habits. Once they no longer feared him as a legend, but recognized him as a man. His downfall was only a matter of time. Familiarity breeds not only contempt, it breeds ambition. When men see you as mortal, they begin to believe they can replace you. Think of your own life. Have you ever noticed how those who remain mysterious hold greater influence? The colleague who rarely speaks, yet whose words are remembered when finally spoken. The leader who does not attend every meeting, but whose presence commands silence when he arrives. Distance creates weight. Isolation is not absence, it is presence sharpened. Still, many resist this strategy. Why? Because isolation feels cold, because solitude tastes bitter, because men crave validation, and validation comes easiest from company. Yet this craving is the weakness that drags leaders down. The need to be liked, to be constantly surrounded, blinds rulers to the cost of closeness. To govern, you must accept loneliness as a weapon. The eagle soars alone not because it despises others, but because it rules the skies by itself. If it flew always among flocks, it would lose its edge, its height, its dominion. The ruler who embraces isolation rises above the petty struggles of his companions. But do not mistake isolation for abandonment. A wise leader does not cut himself off from the world. He controls the terms of access. He appears when it benefits him. He withdraws when it strengthens him. He allows whispers to build curiosity, rumors to build mystique. This is not absence. This is orchestration. Isolation is strategy because it creates dependence. Those below you cannot act without your word. They wait, they speculate, they desire your presence. You become the sun around which their world revolves. And like the sun, you appear when you choose. Not when they demand. Ask yourself, what is more powerful? To be always available like air taken for granted? Or to be rare like gold treasured and sought after? The greatest leaders understand this power is not exercised by constant presence. It is exercised by selective presence, by appearing when it is most effective and disappearing when absence strengthens the legend. Isolation protects, it magnifies, it elevates. It is not the retreat of the weak. It is the shield of the strong. The ruler who embraces it endures, while the one who abandons it becomes just another man among men, easily replaced, easily forgotten. Remember, proximity breeds equality. Distance breeds authority. And only authority can preserve power. Now, let us turn to the next illusion, the false comfort of companionship, and why those who surround you are bound not by love, but by advantage. The most seductive lie in power is the illusion of companionship. You may believe that those around you stand beside you out of affection, out of loyalty, out of some noble bond. But strip away the words, and you will see the truth: men remain near power only as long as it serves them. Their friendship is not rooted in love, but in advantage. Ask yourself, how many of your companions would stand if you had nothing left to give? If your wealth vanished, your influence evaporated, your position crumbled, would they still be there? Or would they scatter, like birds abandoning a tree once its fruit is gone? History answers without mercy. Consider the Medici of Florence. Their house overflowed with allies, bankers and artists praising their greatness. Yet when the Medici fell from power, those same voices turned silent. The streets that once cheered their name echoed with new chants, for men quickly attach themselves to whoever holds the reins of fortune. Companionship is not loyalty, it is transaction, and this pattern repeats. Look at kings who trusted courtiers as friends. They believed in loyalty until a rival offered those friends a greater prize. Then the same lips that once swore devotion whispered treachery. Power reveals what men truly value, and it is rarely you. It is what you provide. Psychology explains this coldly. Human beings are self-preserving creatures. Our instincts are tuned to survival, to gain, to advantage. We align with others not from pure affection, but from the benefits they grant. To the powerful man, this means every companion is bound by invisible strings of self-interest. When those strings loosen, so too does their attachment. Reflect on your own life. The coworker who smiles while you lead may secretly prepare to replace you. The partner who admires your strength may admire it only because it shields them. Even friendships often rest on convenience, on mutual exchange, on the subtle balance of, what do I gain by remaining here? Is this cynical? No, it is realistic. To deny it is to blind yourself to the mechanics of human nature. Men pursue warmth where the fire burns brightest. But when the flames fade, they move on without hesitation. Consider emperors of old. Those who rose surrounded themselves with generals, advisors, servants. They dined, laughed, and called them companions. Yet how many died betrayed by the very men they trusted most? Companionship in power is like a mask. It presents affection, but behind it lies calculation. The Roman Emperor Commodus believed himself loved by his inner circle. He paraded as a god, convinced his companions adored him. Yet those same companions, disgusted by his recklessness, plotted his assassination. His death was not at the hands of enemies, but by those who smiled at his table. The illusion of companionship blinded him until it was too late. Why does this illusion persist? Because men in power crave it. Power isolates, and the powerful long for comfort. They wish to believe that someone stands beside them out of love, that their greatness is recognized not only with fear, but with affection. This hunger makes them vulnerable. It invites manipulation. Those who understand it exploit it. They offer companionship not as truth, but as leverage. The cunning courtier knows how to flatter, how to appear loyal, how to convince a ruler that affection is genuine. But beneath the surface, he waits. And when opportunity arises, when his benefit shifts, he turns. The ruler who believes in companionship rather than calculation signs his own ruin. So I ask you, do you believe in friends at the top? Or do you see that what surrounds you is not friendship, but convenience cloaked in smiles? This is the illusion. Companionship feels like loyalty, but in truth, it is fragile, conditional, and fleeting. It endures only as long as advantage flows. When advantage dries, companionship dissolves like mist at dawn. And yet, there is strength in recognizing this. If you know that men remain for gain, you can control that gain. You can tether them, bind them, make their survival depend on your own. But if you fall for the illusion, if you convince yourself they love you beyond interest, you will hand them the knife they will one day use against you. Never forget, companionship in power is a performance. The applause is not for you, but for the role you play. The benefactor, the protector, the source of advantage. When the play ends, so does the audience. And so the ruler must master the art of detachment. Accept companions not as friends, but as instruments. Use them, direct them, reward them. But never mistake them for permanent allies. Because at the summit of power, the most dangerous lie is believing you are never alone. Now, let us pierce deeper into the next truth. Why fear, not friendship, secures the throne and ensures obedience long after affection fades. Friendship is fragile. Fear endures. You may wish to rule by affection, to win loyalty through kindness, to be loved by those you command. It flatters the heart to believe that bonds of friendship can sustain authority, but history, psychology, and power itself reveal a harsher truth. Men betray affection, but they hesitate before fear. Ask yourself, how many times has love been constant in your own life? How many promises of devotion dissolved when interests shifted? Love binds lightly. It is conditional, unstable, easily broken. But fear roots itself deeper. A man who loves you may turn when it suits him. A man who fears you thinks twice, calculates the cost, and often finds the price of betrayal too high. Consider the rulers of Rome. Emperor Marcus Aurelius sought to be loved as a philosopher king. His rule was wise, his intentions noble. Yet what followed his reign? Weakness, betrayal. By contrast, his son Commodus inspired no love, but he had learned nothing of fear either, and so conspirators ended his reign. Now think of Septimius Severus. He inspired fear in his armies, in his rivals, in his subjects. Ruthless, cold, calculated, yet his authority held because none dared defy him openly. Which path preserved power longer? Even beyond thrones, the same principle applies. Look at great corporations, nations, movements. Leaders who build empires on friendship collapse when affection fades, but those who anchor their rule in fear remain untouchable until death. Fear is not cruelty, it is insurance. Psychology confirms it. The human mind is designed to avoid pain more than to pursue pleasure. Loss aversion governs us. Fear of punishment weighs heavier than the promise of reward. A man will risk losing your affection if gain awaits him. But he will hesitate when the risk is punishment, disgrace, or ruin. Fear speaks to survival itself, and survival is the loudest voice in human nature. Think of your own experiences. Have you not seen people respect the teacher who punishes swiftly more than the one who tries to befriend his students? Have you not seen managers ignored when they beg for affection, but obeyed when they enforce consequences? Friendship breeds comfort. Fear breeds discipline, and discipline preserves authority. But here lies the nuance. Fear must be measured. A leader who rules by terror alone creates desperation, and desperate men become dangerous. The art lies in balance, feared enough that no one dares defy you, yet not hated so much that they burn everything to escape you. A hated ruler falls as surely as a loved one. But a ruler respected through fear, restrained yet firm, endures. History again provides examples. Vlad the Impaler inspired terror so complete that enemies retreated before battle even began. His cruelty is infamous, but his territory remained secure for decades. By contrast, King Edward Thigru of England sought affection, indulged companions, and dismissed fear. He was humiliated, overthrown, and murdered. His desire for love sealed his doom. Fear ensures stability. Friendship ensures dependency. Those who love you may expect generosity, constant reassurance, endless gifts. You become a servant to their affection, enslaved by their approval. But those who fear you expect only authority. They do not demand your heart, they respect your command. This is why rulers must choose. Would you rather be loved or feared? You cannot sustain both. Love depends on the heart of another, and the heart is fickle. Fear depends on you. Your choices, your enforcement, your discipline. Love makes you vulnerable. Fear makes you sovereign. And remember, appearances matter. You need not always wield punishment to maintain fear. Often, the mere reputation of being unyielding is enough. A wise leader punishes rarely but decisively, so that his reputation carries weight. Better one act of ruthless discipline remembered for years than endless affection forgotten in days. So, reflect. If you seek to rule, whether in politics, in business, or even in your private life, will you gamble on affection, knowing how quickly it turns? Or will you root your authority in fear, where survival instincts keep men bound to you long after friendship fades? The answer is clear to those who dare embrace realism. The world is not sustained by love. It is governed by power. And power listens more to fear than to affection. This is why the greatest leaders choose respect over warmth, obedience over devotion, survival over sentiment. They know that being feared secures what being loved cannot. And yet, there is one higher mastery still, beyond fear, beyond affection. A level of solitude and self-mastery that shapes the mind into a weapon none can corrupt. That is the next truth we must face. Solitude is not weakness, it is mastery. Many fear being alone, as if isolation strips away meaning. But in truth, solitude sharpens. It is the crucible where a ruler's mind is hardened, where clarity is forged, and where true independence begins. Those who cannot endure solitude will never command power because they will always need others to steady them. Ask yourself, how many leaders have fallen because they could not separate their mind from the voices around them? How many decisions were poisoned by the whispers of courtiers, advisors, and companions? The ruler who cannot endure his own company is not sovereign. He is a prisoner of others' influence. Look to history. Alexander the Great conquered the known world before the age of 30. Yet after his victories, he drowned himself in companions, in flattery, in indulgence. He could not stand alone with his thoughts, and so he became a victim of excess, losing himself to the very court he had built. His empire fractured the moment he died, because his solitude was never cultivated. It was avoided. Now contrast him with Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor. Surrounded by legions, courtiers, senators, yet always turning inward, writing to himself, mastering his own thoughts. He understood that the greatest fortress is not built of stone, but of mind. A leader who governs his own mind through solitude becomes untouchable, for he is no longer dependent on the counsel or the corruption of others. Psychology confirms what history whispers. Solitude strengthens the capacity for reflection, for self-control, for clarity of vision. Most men fear silence because in silence they meet themselves. They confront weakness, doubt, and fragility. But the one who embraces solitude learns to master these shadows. He emerges not weaker, but sharper. Think of your own life. Have you not seen people who cannot be alone? They chase distraction, drown themselves in noise, cling to company as if it were air. These people will never hold power. For if they cannot master themselves in solitude, how can they master others in society? The ruler who thrives alone carries within him a weapon more dangerous than armies: the ability to think without distortion. And here lies the Machiavellian truth. Solitude makes you unpredictable. When others cannot read your mind, when they cannot pierce the walls of your inner world, you gain an advantage they can never overcome. They guess, they speculate, they maneuver blindly. And in their uncertainty, you maintain control. Do not misunderstand. Solitude does not mean permanent exile. It does not mean abandoning society or ruling as a hermit. It means stepping back often enough to ensure that your mind remains sovereign. It means keeping distance from the noise of flatterers, the traps of companionship, the chaos of crowds. It means cultivating an inner world so strong that no betrayal, no fear, no manipulation can corrode it. Look at the generals who spend nights alone before battle, walking the camp in silence, preparing their thoughts. Look at the prophets who retreated to deserts, mountains, and caves, emerging not broken but armed with vision. Look at the modern leaders who withdraw from constant contact, limiting their words, and in doing so magnify their presence. Each mastered solitude, and through it, mastered others. But solitude has another gift: it kills dependency. When you no longer require constant company, you are free. No advisor can manipulate you with affection. No companion can sway your judgment with flattery. No ally can hold you hostage with their presence. You become whole, untouchable, self-sustained. This is why so many fear solitude. Because it strips away illusions. It shows you the truth of yourself without distraction. But only by facing this truth can you become strong enough to rule without compromise. So ask yourself, can you endure being alone at the top? Can you withstand the silence, the suspicion, the absence of warmth? Or will you crumble, desperate for companionship, willing to trade strength for comfort? Remember this: the throne is not shared. Its weight is carried by one. And that weight can only be borne by those who turn solitude into mastery. At the summit of power, you will find yourself alone. And that is not tragedy, it is necessity. For solitude is the crucible in which the sovereign mind is forged, the weapon that ensures no betrayal can reach the core of your being. Embrace it. Master it. For those who do not, those who cannot, will always remain subjects, never rulers. And now, we arrive at the darker truth hidden within this journey: why the summit itself is not merely solitary, but dangerous beyond measure, and why only those who embrace its shadows can remain standing. Power is never taken by accident. It is shaped, hidden, and sharpened in silence. The greatest rulers do not command openly. They guide men while letting them believe they guide themselves. This is the essence of control: to plant thoughts in others, to shape their choices, and to have them serve your ends while thinking it was their will. What is freer than a man who obeys while believing he acts for himself? Friendship fades. Trust betrays. Affection deceives. But influence, subtle, invisible influence, endures. It is the art of puppeteers. The strings are unseen, yet the dance is precise. So ask yourself, are you the one pulling strings, or are you the one dancing? Reflect on this truth. Share it. Spread it. And if you seek to master power with cold clarity, subscribe for more strategies carved from history's darkest lessons. Comment your thoughts below, for every perspective reveals another weapon. And share this video so others may learn what most will never dare admit: that true power is silent, unseen.